Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Let's talk about Afterlife. No, not that Afterlife. I'm talking about the Afterlife comedy series by Ricky Gervais. Afterlife is a British black comedy drama television series created, written, executive produced and directed by Ricky Gervais, who plays lead character Tony Johnson. It premiered on the 8th of March 2019 on Netflix and ended in 2022 with 3 seasons. Ricky Gervais is mostly known for his work in comedy in projects such as Ghost Town, The Ricky Gervais Show and The Office, to name a few. But Afterlife was one of the few times where he delved into drama as well as comedy. Set in the fictional town of Tanbury, Afterlife follows newspaper writer Tony Johnson, whose life is turned upside down after his wife dies from breast cancer. He contemplates suicide, but instead decides to spend his life punishing the world for his wife's death by saying and doing whatever he wants, regardless of how it makes other people feel. Although he thinks this as his superpower, his plan is undermined as he realizes he does care about a select few people. Over the course of the series, he stops trying to be awful, and despite never really moving on from his wife's death and remaining suicidal, decides true meaning in life comes from helping and being there for others. Making a dark comedy about someone who lost someone to cancer and is grieving about it in his own way is quite a challenge since it's a very sensitive subject. But they managed to pull it off really well with the comedy and the characters. Ricky Gervais plays the main character Tony Johnson, head of feature stories for the local newspaper, the Tanbury Gazette. Following the death of his wife, he is depressed and suicidal. During the first few seasons, he goes around mocking people and being as rude as possible to them, caring little for the consequences. But over time he slowly gets a little better and starts treating people a little nicer. His suicide attempts are usually thwarted by his dog Brandy, who always knows when he's feeling sad and helps him out by stopping him from committing suicide and helping him get him back into the routines of walking her and taking her on strolls along the beach and the park. We have a whole colourful cast of characters in this series as well as Ricky Gervais' Tony, including Tom Baston as Matt Braden, Tony's brother-in-law and boss at the Tanbury Gazette, Tony Way as Lenny, the Tanbury Gazette's photographer, Diane Morgan as Kath, the Gazette's advert manager, Mandeep Dilhan as Sandy, the new hired features journalist who only appeared in the first 2 seasons and never appeared in the 3rd series for some reason, Kerry Godliman as Lisa Johnson, Tony's deceased wife seen in flashbacks and Tony's home videos, Ashley Jensen as Emma, a nurse at the nursing home where Tony's father is a resident, Paul Kay as Tony and Matt's unconventional and incompetent counsellor, Penelope Wintour as Anne, a widow Tony meets at the local graveyard who dispenses sage advice for Tony's troubles, Joe Wilkinson as Tony's postman, Pat, get it? Roisin Conate as Daphne, Rotsy, a sets worker who befriends Tony for the first 2 seasons, David Bradley as Ray Johnson, Tony's father who has dementia, Tim Plester as Julian Kane, a drug addict hired by Matt to deliver the Tanbury Gazette, David Earl as Brian Gittins, a hoarder and self-professed puppeteer and stand-up comedian who wants to appear in the local newspaper, Joe Hartley as June, Jenny's partner and mother to James, Ethan Lawrence as James, June's son, who does work experience at the Tanbury Gazette, and a number of people have made fun of how he sounds quite similar to James Corden. And having watched the show myself, I do hear the similarities in his voice. Colin Holt as Ken Otley, head of the local amateur dramatics company and would-be showbiz superstar, and Kath Hughes as Colleen, Sandy's replacement at the Gazette from the 3rd series. The show also gives us various other actors who can guest play as characters in the show, including Tracy Ann Oberman. The show was one of the many marvels written and directed and produced by Ricky Gervais, who a lot of people either love or hate him. But regardless of how you feel about him, you can't deny that he's one of the best actors and writers out there. An interesting point was the show actually had a hiatus between the 2nd and 3rd seasons due to the COVID pandemic. But they carried on filming as normal as soon as the restrictions were lowered, and they even addressed the pandemic in the 3rd season. The show has a fantastic blend of comedy and drama, knowing when to be funny and knowing when to be dramatic. It wasn't just the sensitive topic of going through grief and the comedy writing that made the show so memorable. It was the swearing that was in it as well. And because it was a Netflix series, they could get away with a lot more swear words. So you'll hear this particular word a lot in the show.
Aye, that was his cocky, stupid cunt. I'm not gonna let cunts wind me up. You'd be safe with tubby little ginger cunt. Fucking fat cunt, eating like a fucking slug. Don't come out of this fat cunt shut himself. He's got such an important job as a full-time cunt. Cunt. Fucking snot-curdling cunt.
Oh, you dumpy little cunt.
That last one by Tracy Ann Oberman made me laugh the most. Afterlife had lots of positive reviews upon each season's release, and it won 3 awards and was nominated for 4 awards. That just shows how much people really enjoyed this show. And even though it's a comedy, it's very realistic with the subject matter. Not many people know this, but I actually started watching this show a few months after my nan passed away in 2023, and it actually helped me during that time. I caught wind of this show a few months after my nan passed away, and because I'd heard a lot of good things about it, I decided to give it a good watch. And it turns out that I actually needed to watch this show more than I realised. Because in a strange way, it actually helped me to get through my grief. Afterlife really does a great job at showing how people grieve differently when they lose someone they love. Because we've all been through that in our lives, or knew somebody who's been through that in their lives. And the show portrays it in a very realistic way. It does a great job of showing us how everybody goes through grief when they lose someone that they really loved and was really close to them, and how different people react different ways to their grief. And it shows us how not to react to the world when you're going through these sorts of things. And Ricky Gervais said it best when he talked about the ending of the 3rd series, how even though the show ends, life will go on, and that there's always something worth getting up for. And throughout the whole series, Tony always finds something to still look forward to and not kill himself for. His job, the people around him, and most of the time his dog Brandy. The series does a great job at showing us how different people react to grief differently when someone passes away, and how our actions affect everyone around us. You do something horrible and you'll often get something horrible in return, but if you do nice things for people, then nice things will come your way. It could have been easy to have just made the show a straight up comedy or a straight up drama, but it has a good balance of both, making it very realistic. It shows that there are good ways and bad ways to deal with grief, and Tony highlights the bad ways of dealing with it, and he slowly comes to terms with the good ways of dealing with it, remaining slightly depressed and a little suicidal, but finally realising how caring about people and making people feel good about themselves is the real superpower compared to not caring. And the ending shows us that we all die in the end, but life still goes on. Whether you love Ricky Gervais or hate him or like him or tolerate him, you can't deny that this show shows that he's a really good writer, and a great actor as well. Maybe one of the best in Britain. I really do recommend checking out Afterlife if you haven't already. As well as being a fun comedy with Ricky Gervais, it's also a well-written drama, showing us how different people deal with grief and how it affects us in different ways when we lose someone. And if you've recently lost someone close to you, chances are this may help you get through the grief, because we all need a good laugh from time to time, and while the show provides us with a lot of good laughs, it also provides a real-life take on how grief affects us all. It's a really good show to watch, which I highly recommend. It's easily among one of the best shows Netflix has to offer. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.